Okay, let's work on finding slope. We are going to talk about some slope, and you probably know some of this already, but we'll go over it and see how much of this you remember. Okay, so the slope of the line is how much it goes up or down, and we did this yesterday with our CBR. We talked about the slope of the line going this way, and the steeper the slope, the steeper the line, the higher the slope. Okay, and so some of the ways we find slope are, we're talking about graphing. This is our y and this is our x. So you've probably seen this before. This is your run and this is your rise. And the slope is a fraction, rise over run. We also say y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you have 2 points, you can find the slope this way. The rise would be the change in y over the change in x, which is rise over run. Sometimes we also write it like this, the triangle sign being delta y over delta x. And in this case, that stands for change in, or the difference. Okay, so basically it's the same thing as y2 minus y1. Okay, you see that happy Mr. Slopey guy? Actually, he's not very happy. He has all the different slopes that you could have all on his face. So notice that his eye is a positive. This slope going up is a positive slope. His other eye is a negative sign because going down is a negative slope. And we'll do some examples of these. His mouth is a horizontal line with a 0 slope. And his nose kind of has a U because the slope is undefined. I'm going to just go right on top of his face. Undefined slope is a vertical line. And we'll sum this up in a minute. Okay, so let's talk about how we would find the slope of these two graphs that we have right here. Okay, so we're looking for y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we find these points and we call them perfect points. Perfect points are exactly where two lines cross. So this is a perfect point, this is a perfect point, this is a perfect point. You don't want to pick points in between whole numbers because that just makes finding the slope more difficult for you. So if I look at this one right here, I would say that is 1, 2. So I'm going to write 1, 2. And then this one I'll use, and that is 3, 1. Okay, we'll call this one x1, y1, and we'll call this one x2, y2. It does not matter which one is which, because when you subtract them, it'll come out the same. So our slope is going to be 2 minus 1, which are my y values, and my x values are going to be 1 minus 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. 1 minus 3 is negative 2. The slope is negative 1/2. It makes sense that it's negative because it's going in a negative direction. That makes it negative. And the 1/2 means it's going up 1 and over 2. Remember rise over run? So we're going up 1 over 2 in the negative direction. That's what our slope means. Okay, number 2 is a horizontal line. If we take two perfect points, I'll take positive 1 and negative 1. So this one is going to be 1, 0. This one is going to be -1, 0. x1, y1, x2, y2. If I subtract 0 minus 0, nope, yep, and then I subtract -1 minus 1, I get 0 minus -2. 0 divided by -2 equals 0, so it has a 0 slope. Which makes sense because the rise is 0. It's not going up anywhere before it goes over. Okay, these next two graphs are our special cases. Number 4 looks just like number 2, but I wanted to go ahead and write some of the ways we remember these. For a vertical line, just like Mr. Sloopy's nose, it's undefined. That's what we say the slope is. We don't say it's 0, we say it's undefined. And a way to help you remember that is by using the letters VUX. V is for vertical. U is for undefined slope. And the X tells you that it's going to be X equals whatever number it is that's on the X value. So if you see right here in the graph, X equals 3 is this line. It's vertical and the slope is undefined. So over on this side, we have HOI, and usually we say HOI first. We say HOI VUX is supposed to be your mental reminder for what we're doing. This one has a slope of 0. H is for horizontal. O is for 0 slope. And the Y reminds you that it's a Y equals equation. So this line, it says up here is Y equals 3. It's horizontal, and there is no slope. So HOI VUX is one of those things that you'll hear in other classes. Maybe not geometry, algebra 2 for sure. Just a way to remind you that it's which one's horizontal and vertical and what the equation should look like. Okay, now we're going to do some more slopes. Excuse me. Okay, like I said before, it doesn't matter which one. Oh, what happened? X1, Y1, X2, Y2. Doesn't matter which one's X1 and X2, as long as you keep them in the same order. So the slope is, oh, and we use M for the slope. So we use the letter M for slope. M equals 7 minus 3 over 9 minus 2. 7 minus 3 is 4. 9 minus 2 is 7. So our slope is 4 over 7. So remember, if we had points on a graph, we would go up 4 and over 7 in the positive direction because it's positive. Okay, number 6. You should notice something right away. What happened to our x values? They're the same. So I don't really care what's on top. This 0.584 minus 0.124, because on the bottom I have minus 5 minus a minus 5, which is 0. So my slope is undefined. And sometimes you have 3 points and you only need 2. So pick the 2 points that look the easiest. I'm going to pick this one and this one because my numbers are a little smaller and I like positive numbers. So let's call this one x2. Let's go backwards and see if it makes a difference. And we'll call this one x1, y1. Okay, so our slope is 8 minus a negative 2. And our x is 10 minus a negative 6. So if I have minus and negative is positive, so I have 10 over 16. Everything's positive. I'm going to simplify dividing by 2, and I end up with 5 over 8 is my slope. Okay. 8 and 9 are a little bit different because we're working backwards, basically. It says determine the value of r, but what it really means is we're finding y, right? Okay, so we're finding the value of y so that the lines 9y and 6, 3 make the slope 1/3. So we're going to call this x1, y1, x2, y2. When I write my slope, I already know my slope, so it's negative 1/3. And my y2 minus y1 is going to be 3 minus y over 6 minus 9. And that has to equal negative 1/3. So you might notice that 6 minus 9 is negative 3. So if this is already negative 3, then this has to equal 1. So 3 minus y equals 1. Take 3 away from both sides. Minus y equals minus 2. So y equals 2. So let's run back up here and put a 2 in right here. 3 minus 2 is 1, and 6 minus 9 is negative 3. Remember, the negative sign can go with the numerator or the denominator or in front, but you can only have one. So I chose to put it with my denominator so that it matched what I had right here. Okay, number 9, of course, isn't going to be so easy, of course. So let's do x1, y1, x2, y2. Let's have here's our slope is negative 3/4. And I'm going to have y minus 4 over 8 minus 3. And since 8 minus 3 is 5, it's not equal to 4, I'm going to cross multiply. So because it's a proportion, if I multiply my y minus 4 times 4 and my 5 times, I'm going to put my negative with my 3, times negative 3, those should be equal to each other. So 4 times y minus 4 should be equal to 5 times negative 3. And I just chose to put my negative sign with my 3 because I just picked one. It could be with my 4, but I thought it might be easier to put it over here. So let's distribute. And I'm gonna use all the room over here. Okay, so I have 4y minus 16 equals negative 15. So I cross multiplied my 5 and my negative 3 to get negative 15, and my y minus 4 and my 4 to get 4y minus 16. I'm going to add 16 to both sides. 4y equals 1. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. Y equals 1/4. So if I went back up to my equation at the top, I would put in 1/4 right here, or 0.25, and I would end up with negative 3/4 when I worked it out. And I can work it out if I have the room, but I don't. So we'll do it later. Okay. We're finding the rate of change. Oh, that's what else I forgot to tell you. Rate of change is slope, which is m. So m, slope, rate of change are all the same. And y'all have done rate of change before. I do know that. Okay, so I have a whole table of values. And I only need 2 points because to find the slope, I only need 2 points. So pick the 2 points that look the easiest to you. I'm going to pick these 2 in the middle. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to have y1. Nope, I'm going to have x1 is 1, y1 is 37, x2 is 5, y2 is 41. So my slope is 41 minus 37 over 5 minus 1. 41 minus 37 is 4. 5 minus 1 is 4. So my rate of change is my slope is 1. Okay. Over on the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. I think I will take these 2 points. X1 is 0. Y1 is 1. X2 is -2. Y2 is 5. So my slope is 5 minus 1 over -2 minus 0. 5 minus 1 is 4. -2 minus 0 is -2. I'm going to divide both those by 2, and I end up with -2 over 1, or I could say -2. So my rate of change is -2, or I could say -2 over 1. Both of those are correct. Alrighty. So here's a table. We're looking for the slope of the line. Interpret means I'm going to say in words what it means. So if I take 2 points, and I don't really need to do this because, well, I can. Okay, x1, x2 are going up by 4, and y1, y2 are going up by 0. And when my y is 0, that means my slope is going to be 0 over 4, which equals 0. When the slope is 0, that means 0 slope, no change in y. It's, think of hoivux, it's hoi, so it's horizontal. And basically it's telling me that as the hours increase, there's no change in emission. No change in the dollars for the emission. Okay, so any change in hours, there's no change in the dollar amount that is charged. So 0 slope. Yeah. Let's back up just a little bit. Okay, so here's Barb's business. Sells pre-owned cars. We're going to use the graph below to determine the rate. And that's all. I can go back up. I don't know why I keep going up and down, up and down. Okay, so let's do rise over run because I haven't showed you that yet. Remember I said perfect points. Here's a perfect point, and here's a perfect point. You have to be really careful of what your numbers are going up by. First thing to remember about slope is this is on top and this is on bottom. So my slope is going to be worth per year, because my y word goes on top and my x word goes on the bottom. Okay, so my years are whole numbers. My worth is in thousands, which means I have to add 1,000 to that. And I'm looking at rise and run. So my rise goes from 100 to 150. So that's 50,000. And my x goes from 2 to 4, which is 2. So my slope is going to be 50,000 over 2 years, which is going to be equal to, when I simplify, 1 year, and half of 50,000 is going to be $25,000. So that tells me that every year her business was worth $25,000 more. Okay, so this is the rate at which her business grows, $25,000 per year. We also call that a unit rate. Remember those? You did unit rate before. Okay, last one. Okay, we have a points, but they have letters. That's okay. We still have x1, y1, x2, y2. So my slope is going to be negative n minus n, and my 3m minus a negative n. So negative n and negative n makes negative 2n, and 3m ends up being plus m, so it's going to be 4m. I can divide by 2, and I end up with negative n over 2m. So that's my slope. Yay, algebra. That's all we're doing today. Hopefully that made sense. Get ready for asking questions, and that's all. Bye.